Hey everyone, I'm back with a new video on how to use ThrottleStop and how to optimize Intel CPUs to fix throttling issues, preventing you from using the full potential of your CPU. I'll be guiding on how to auto start ThrottleStop in the background upon startup or boot using Task Scheduler. I'll add the download and forums links in the description, so let's get the guide started. This is the main window for TS. By default, ThrottleStop is disabled until you click on turn on button to activate TS. I'll be using TS as an abbreviation for ThrottleStop. It comes with 4 profiles, loss defaulting to performance, internet, game, and battery. The user can configure the profile with different undervolt settings for each profile and switch it on the fly by clicking on any profile and then click on Save button. Do keep in mind only one profile is active at a time. I am using a BIOS or a firmware which allows undervolting capability, and the feature is disabled in later BIOS versions due to plundervolt exploit. It comes with a power profile selector which adds balanced power saver and high performance power plans. I prefer balance on my CPU and use speed shift setting value to adjust CPU performance on the fly. On latest Windows 10 or 11, the speed shift feature is tied to a power slider, which can be adjusted to the left or right to adjust for power savings or performance. Speed shift is a hardware p-state feature that lets the CPU to optimally adjust the frequency and voltage to give optimal performance or power savings. The transition between the clock frequency is very quick, since OS is no longer involved in deciding which frequency and voltage the CPU must run while executing specific tasks or app. You can see the disabled turbo. You can check off the option if you want to disable turbo boost or uncheck it to enable turbo boost. By default, it is unchecked. SpeedStep is a predecessor of speed shift tech, which is controlled via software to dynamically adjust frequency and voltage as per user demand and can be configured via CMD or GUI. Example, switching to a high performance power plan instructs the CPU to use maximum performance, which increases power consumption. In case you were wondering why I have enabled both speed shift and speed step, is to do a BIOS bug which causes black screen of death whenever the device goes to idle or when the screen times out. The only workaround is to force power down the device and power up it again. So BD PROCHOT is also known as a bidirectional processor hot, which signals the CPU to scale down the frequency and voltage to reduce temperatures. It can be triggered by PCH, VRM, or even memory chips. I noticed a adverse performance hit wherein the CPU gets stuck at 800 MHz and only a reboot fixed the CPU. I disable it on AC power and enable it on battery power to protect the battery from getting very hot, say 60 to 65 degrees Celsius, which adversely affects battery longevity and runtime. C1E is a legacy power saving feature and can be safely unchecked on most modern Intel CPUs. Taskbar, you can pin ThrottleStop to taskbar by checking off taskbar option, and you can click on save to save the setting. Set default profile for AC and on battery. Select discrete GPU monitoring for AMD or NVIDIA. Battery monitoring. Starting TS minimize when launching or at startup. Defender boost is a new feature that deprioritizes Windows Defender from using all performance counters affecting gaming or benchmark performance when real-time monitoring is active or periodic scanning is running in background. PROCHOT offset allows the user to set the throttling temperature value, which will downclock the CPU to reduce the temperatures to prevent thermal runaway. A value of 0 indicates the throttling temperature is set to 100 degrees Celsius as per the Intel default thermal throttling specification. Lock PROCHOT offset disables any changes to throttling temperatures done by firmware. DC exit time causes TS to exit upon detecting DC or battery as power source. It is disabled by default. Timer resolution in milliseconds. You can customize timer resolution to be used by ThrottleStop. By default is set to 16 ms. The main window package power means CPU package, and will give power usage in real time. Limits will show if your CPU package or iGPU is hitting the voltage or current or even power limit. You might see different colors such as red for critical, yellow or amber for warning whenever reaching the threshold temperature or value. FIVR is where you'll undervolt or overvolt your CPU as well as change turbo ratios. On the left side you have profiles named similar to main window. You can set extra turbo voltage, boost, tweak turbo ratios to overclock your CPU. Only HK or key series needed for this to work, and only those support unlocked multiplier. In the center, you can see FIVR control, which will let you undervolt CPU core, cache, iGPU unslice, and system agent. Just select CPU core or cache or iGPU or system agent and check off unlock adjustable voltage and slide the offset voltage to the left to undervolt. I would suggest starting with minus 50 millivolt on all the components, that is cache, iGPU unslice and system agent, and stress test them using your web browser, spreadsheet, word processing, games, etc. to see if the undervolt is stable. When undervolt values are unstable, you might see black screen or blue screen of death or instant system reset, and afterwards it will boot normally. In some Intel CPUs, you can set a different undervolt value for CPU core or cache without affecting performance. You can tweak the ICCMax value in case you are running into current limits. I would recommend you set a safe value just above the default value instead of moving the slider all the way to the maximum. In the right side, you can see real-time offset values applied, cache ratios, speed shift values. Under cache ratio section, you will see minimum and max ratio, and also an option to set default cache ratios and voltage when suspending the device or in sleep mode. You'll see memory frequency as well as microcode version. Under miscellaneous section, you will see the available options if your CPU supports it. Otherwise, it will be grayed out. You can set how to save voltage when you undervolt or set offset values. By default, it will not save voltages, but I recommend you choose third option to immediately save voltages upon changing offset values. CLR, as the name suggests, will clear sensor statistics. TPL, also known as turbo power limits, which allows you to adjust turbo boost window. TDP for short or sustained turbo boost limits. Enable speed shift and power balance. Lock the CPU power limits by checking off lock option, and it can prevent any changes from OS or firmware. Under power limit section, you can set long power PL1 and short power PL2 values along with a turbo boost time limit. I usually set it to a higher value so that it can turbo boost until it is within thermal throttling temperatures. You can also disable power control limit by checking off disabled controls so that CPU runs without any power limit. Under miscellaneous section, you will see speed shift, minimum and maximum values, power balance, which will favor more power delivery to CPU or GPU based on the values. Power balance values can range from 9 to 31. A higher value of 31 for CPU suggests to prioritize max power delivery to CPU, and a value of 9 which only supplies minimum power to the iGPU or the internal GPU. This does not affect the discrete GPU at all. You can play with the desired values. You can also uncheck power balance if you want a default power balance. C-state is a power saving feature which shuts off unused features when the CPU is in idle state. By default, it will display all available C-states your CPU supports. You can click on the double greater than symbol to bring up detailed C-states info and even disable C-states on AC power. Under sleep residency section, you will see system uptime, and it will also display how much time your CPU spent in lower C states, which will improve battery life considerably. You can configure it on a per profile basis. I usually disable C state on AC power. Minus button will turn a TS interface into a minimalistic UI. Let's get to creating auto start task or ThrottleStop. We'll be using task scheduler to create a basic task. For that, search by typing task scheduler in start menu and click on task scheduler. Right click the center of the window where all tasks are displayed and click on create a basic task. Type your desired startup task name and description, if any, and click on next. Select I log in or log on option to trigger the task and click on next. Select an action, that is start a program, and click on next. You can click on browse button to point to the location of ThrottleStop and select the executable file and click on next. Check off option called open the properties dialog. When I click finish, you will see the properties window. Check off run with highest privileges, which will ensure that TS has administrator rights. and select your suitable OS versions in Windows 10 from the Configure for drop-down menu and click on Trigger tab. In the Trigger tab, you can add additional triggers by clicking Edit and choose your options to run for any user or specific user and add in if advanced settings or triggers as well. Or you can click on OK. In the Conditions tab, uncheck the option Stop if computer switches to battery power so that TS will continue to run even on battery power. In the Settings tab, you can go with defaults and click on OK. To test if the task is working as intended, right-click on TS tray icon and click on Exit. Right-click on the TS task you created by right-clicking and select Run. Now you should see a TS tray icon and you have successfully created a started task using Task Scheduler. We have reached the end of the video. Please support or reach out to TS developer unclewebb in case if you are facing any issue or suggest any new areas if you have any. Thanks for watching. Bye.